Welcome back to Hidden Cove. Today we're going to be talking about a deck or a style of deck that you may have been running into on ladder, that you may have been playing against and wondering what is going on. Why do they have 15 items on board? Why am I not able to play the game? And why are they winning? Today, it's all about Kevin Control. It's all about whether you want to call it Bird Box, Kevin Control, uh, item box, control box, whatever I don't think we've really fully decided. I like Kevin control because I like Kevin. I think she's funny. I apologize if I sound a little off. I think I'm getting a little sick right now. But other than that, let's just dive into this and give you a maybe not a, again, similar to the last video, not an exact 60 cards, but I want to give you an understanding of how this archetype works and why we play these cards and the synergies and to see honestly if maybe you want to try it, because I think this deck is so expressive and so fun. So as I just mentioned, why would you want to play this? It is probably the most expressive and unique list in the entire format. It just we've never really had, other than the Tamatoa like Ratigan's Trap list from Azurite Sea Arcasia's Island time frame, like that springs to mind. But kind of outside of that, I don't think we've ever truly had a list that feels like this. Um, Especially not in the context of it literally being like 4 characters and 56 actions and items. Um, the deck is so fun in that way. It's the fact that you can just like show up and it's unconventional, it's unique, it's different. I've used the word unique a lot, but it really kind of describes it in a nutshell. It's so different. It's paced differently. It's all about the stall. It's all about the stall to the late game. It's all about crushing your opponent's dreams. It's about if you play 60 cards, you're probably going to see like 58 of them because we're going to go that long. And ultimately, another thing I really love about this is just how underexplored it is. I'm very into decks that have a lot of solving that need to be done. And I think by playtesting, we can figure out more and more which cards make sense in the list, which cards don't make sense in the list. I've put a lot of time in. Honestly, this is one of my most played decks now, which is a little crazy. But I've really been enjoying it. Of course, I enjoy it. It's a control shell, right? But it's such a different control shell. It's such a refreshing change of pace. And I think if you're a little bored of testing Ruby Amber or Amber Emerald Singers, or maybe you're even a little bored of the other control options like Amber Sapphire, I really would try this. I think it's so interesting. So let me give you a little bit of a breakdown and understanding of how this shell works. I did say it was all about Kevin. I kind of lied. It's all about Buzz's Arm, really. Buzz's Arm from Wilds Unknown is a 2-drop inkable item that says you can exert this, you pay 1 less for the next action or item you play this turn. The first effect is if your character named Buzz was banished this turn, you can play it for free. That's irrelevant here. There may come a time where it becomes relevant, who knows. But the exertion to pay 1 less for an action or item, it's Lantern for actions or items. It's Sail or Tipo or Lantern or Willow. It's a turn 2 ramp, but purely for this kind of build. And we want to be curving in an ideal world. We need to be establishing our draw engine and establishing our interruption, because this deck at its core is stalling. Everything that we do, comparatively even to other control strategies, is to just stall out, grind down, and slowly whittle your opponent down. That is the core. That is how it consistently operates. So the ideal curve would be going on turn 2. So your turn 1, that most of these decks don't play 1-drops. In my version today, we're not going to be playing 1-drops, meaning that your turn 1 is just going to be an ink. And then your turn 2 will be playing a Buzz's Arm and passing. This makes, of course, yes, the deck is slower, but When you get to your turn 3, that's when you get to more interestingly change what you're playing. If you have an adventure book in hand, this is the ideal turn to play it because it allows you to exert the buzzer's arm, play the adventure book, and pay one to use the adventure book, meaning that you're setting up your draw engine and immediately drawing a card from it on your turn 3. This then allows you to maybe see some more options to get into that turn 4 play, where that turn 4 play is going to then be your beginning of your stall tools, whether it's Inscrutable Map. Inscrutable Map is an item that allows you to pay the one to reduce a lore on your opponent's character next turn, or the MVP for me, Strange Things. Strange Things is as the second the card got revealed, I knew it was going to have a home somewhere, and choosing two characters they can't quest is tremendously strong. And the important thing I really, really want to mention with this card is that it specifically states chosen characters cannot quest. It does not state it gives them reckless, because that is a really important distinction. Because of course we see cards like Aladdin now, and Aladdin, if you're giving a character reckless, like for example Potion of Malice can do, um, when you're giving a character reckless, sometimes it's actually not great, especially into Ruby Amber, because they can just Ares loop and Liquidator and just start turning sideways with all of their reckless bodies. That is something to bear in mind. That is why Strange Things is for sure my MVP of this list. And of course, stuff like Aladdin, I'm saying, gets through that anyway. Stuff like Dumbo gets through that anyway. That's unimportant here. But if this is a very basic, idealistic curve, but I just want to give like an understanding of what maybe would want to see. The downsides are everybody's kind of playing item hate now, huh? Early on in the format, I was always of the opinion that when item hate comes in, a lot of the top decks will shift around. I think Ruby Amber really is relying a lot more on Ohana now because Webby's Diary is getting hit a lot. Detectives will play Judy Hopps. Pluto is played in Amethyst Steel. I find that my Platinum's played in Amber Steel. Sabotage is played in the Mirror, or perhaps an Emerald Steel or an Emerald Amethyst. We've Got a Lot to Do is often played in Amber Sapphire. I didn't include Wipeout here, but that's another option. We've Got a Lot to Do is played in Blurple. Yeah, because, especially I find in my Platinum is the biggest example. If you have two Buzz's Arms, an adventure book, and a couple other cards down, and your opponent just goes, I found my Platinum, you just kind of, I don't want to say you immediately lose, but it is very likely that you do, because, your entire engine is your items. So the second they go, it's a little rough, I'll be honest. However, there are ways to navigate it, and there are ways to play around it a little bit. There are maybe ways to consider different cards in the deck going forward, and we'll talk about that in a bit. And of course, sometimes a deck will just go too fast. Sometimes, you're not doing anything on turn 1, your turn 2 is just playing a Buzz's Arm, your turn 3 is then starting your game plan, meaning that aggro decks that go stupid fast may just be too much for you. Now, there are answers, and there are, sometimes you can win them, but this has a worse aggro matchup than Ruby Amber. This has a worse aggro matchup than maybe Amber Sapphire. I've played a lot of both of them. I think, truthfully, Amber Sapphire I would still say has a worse aggro matchup than this deck, but it's close. The two of them really, really struggle into aggro. So here we're going to look at my 61 cards. This is, again, not everyone has solved this deck yet, and I really want to take a moment to mention that. However, there are cards that I have included that are different to what other people are playing. I'm still a Kevin control player, so I'm playing for Kevin. The card is exceptional. The card has such amazing ability to, once you've whittled and grinded your opponent down, looping himself or herself. I'm so sorry. And allowing you to quest for 3, and returning it to the deck. Adventure book, grab it right back. And this works tremendously well with Enigmatic Inkcaster. Inkcaster is a card that is incredibly good at what it does. It is a card that obviously saw a lot of play in burn strategies pre-rotation, but I think this is a perfect home for this card because it is a slow ticking grind option. It allows you to go gain the one after you go Kevin, Adventure Book, Kevin, or you go Kevin, Adventure Book, Strange Things, or Kevin, Adventure Book, Horseman Strikes, Kevin. Like, you can very consistently just play two things. And late game, oftentimes you just sometimes play an action with no trigger just to resolve the incasters. Um, there is a serious argument increasing the count of the card. You do draw through your entire deck, though, and I think you don't necessarily need more than two because the two, if you see both of them, there is no reason to play more than two. If you don't see the card consistently enough and you don't feel that you're getting to the late game long enough, there's a chance that you maybe just are not building the deck, or maybe not looking at the deck in the right way. I want to take a little bit of a look at Freeze the Vine and Sabotage. I think Freeze the Vine and Sabotage are both exceptionally important tools in this deck. Particularly Sabotage. Sabotage is your grind out to Ruby Amber. Ruby Amber is a deck that Webby's Diary can be a little bit of a problem because they can just outvalue you. So if they overextend, set down a second Diary, Sabotage can be great here. It can also be great in the mirrors, where if your opponent overextends a little too much and plays maybe all four of their books, you can just go Sabotage, pop all the books. Yes, to clarify, this also pops your own. If you recognize that you're in a mirror and you want to stop them from drawing cards, and you pop their adventure book, you need to recognize that you are also losing the adventure books you have in play. So if you have less than them, let's say you only have one in play, and they have all four, maybe it's still okay to do, and then just play another one. You need to be aware of that. So when you pop a Buzz's Arm, it pops all of the Buzz's Arms. When you pop a location, even if it's an opposing location, if it's the same name, yours will also be banished. And speaking of locations, Freeze the Vine is a great example here. Freeze the Vine popping those pesky Casa Madrigals, those more so counting houses at the moment. Those cards that just have grind game inevitability. Freeze the Vine prevents you from just losing. A lot of people at the moment are on two Freeze the Vine as opposed to one Sabotage, one Freeze the Vine. I like Sabotage more because I think Sabotage has more has more versatility. I would like to honestly say that both these cards could be two ofs, and I think that that wouldn't be wrong. The other thing I would like to mention before we move to any other cards in this list is I want to talk about the fact that it is actually 61 cards. This is not something I commonly do. However, as I mentioned before, you so consistently draw your entire deck that it's not really much of a problem. Um, I don't think I've ever really gotten to a game state with this where I'm winning, where I have more than 10 cards left in deck by the end of the game. You are drawing so many cards with Adventure Book. You are just, especially if you've got two or three of them on board and you're using them every single turn, you are minimum drawing 3 cards a turn. Because Adventure Book is the card I really want to highlight, because Adventure Book is probably the strongest item support card. I want to say item or action support card. It may be bold to say it. Possibly the strongest one we have ever seen. It is a 3-drop recurable item that says pay 1, draw a card. I understand that it reveals the card to your opponent. I understand that in some decks it's not always drawing a card, but in this 61 card list, it will always draw you a card. The ability to just set up a draw engine and just pay the 1 draw, pay the 1 draw, pay the 1 draw, pay the 1 draw with the remaining ink you have in your turn after you're utilizing. And then, a lot of your cards are cantrip. Strange Things is a great example. Strange Things draws after you play it. It's why it's one of the best cards in the deck. Horseman Strikes draws after you play it. Strike a Good Match. Really, really strong draw tool if you're missing your adventure book. Of course, discarding the card can be rough, but you play enough cards. A surprising tool that I've really grown to like is the Family Scattered. The Family Scattered is a very, very good stall tool in the sense that sometimes a Raging Storm feels if you have a Family Scattered in hand, sometimes a Raging Storm doesn't feel valuable. Sometimes you want your opponent to commit and take longer. So Family Scattered can often be a really great tool in this way, especially if they play three characters and they're one of them is a decent quester, one of them's a big body, one of them is just a whatever character. You don't really want a Raging Storm because the only thing that really threatens you is questers. If they have three copies of Percy on board, maybe Raging Storm them. But like if they have three copies of just kind of like if they have a Scrooge and an Aladdin and a Sully and Boo, you probably don't even want to Raging Storm them because they'll loop the card. So Family Scattered can be really interesting here. It just buys you time, and I really like that. Another card that I was pretty high on and I've been testing a lot in other decks was To Wither a Flower. I think Malicious, Mean, and Scary To Wither a Flower is really interesting. I think it's very interesting with the Potion of Malice. The Potion of Malice is a card that I really will take a second to highlight in a minute. The synergies that these three cards have together, I don't think can be underestimated. They are very, very good at what they do. Late game, sometimes they have two characters on board. You don't have access to a Raging Storm. You don't want to waste a Family Scattered. Maybe this is the turn where you then go, okay, I'm going to pay the Buzz's Arm twice to discount a Malicious, Mean, and Scary to pay one for it. Then I'm going to potion of Malice to deal one more damage to something with something with 4 health as opposed to 3, and then I'm going to go To Wither a Flower, wipe the board. Because sometimes you don't even need Malicious, Mean, and Scary. Sometimes you can just Potion of Malice 3 characters, and then Wither a Flower, bump them up to 3 damage each. Or you can double or triple Potion of Malice 1 character, and then To Wither a Flower to wipe it. That can be needed sometimes, like if your opponent is playing a character with 5 health that quests for 2 or 3 late game, you can just Potion of Malice it 3 times To Wither a Flower to wipe it, and because that might be the only removal tool you have access to, and that's why it's relevant. I was on 4. I wanted to fit a couple other tech cards in, like Trust in Me. Trust in Me. Trust in Me has been an absolute monster. You know, we're back in a position where I think discard could be really, really slept on, particularly in like this kind of shell, because your goal, right, is to stall and grind down your opponent. So naturally, they're going to go lower and lower on resources. So in that kind of like mid to late game, if they have maybe only one character on board or nothing on board, and they have 2 characters in hand because they're clearly trying to kind of sandbag an option, or they're just struggling to get through that late game. Trust in Me discard 2 just can be devastating. It reminds me a lot of You Have Forgotten Me, which was a tremendously strong card in Amber Emerald discard a long time ago. Just being able to make your opponent discard 2 cards can be obscenely strong. The resource grind game is your best friend here, and the ability to just go discard 2 and then I will spend the rest of my turn to adventure book one more time or to just pass, and then you're top decking, but I'm not top decking because I have like 8 million cards. You're just going to grind them down, and that's exactly why I think Trust in Me is. And the other thing with Trust in Me is that the other effect is very relevant. Reducing the lore of every character on your opponent's board by 1 for 1 turn can just buy you a turn. It can buy you a turn into aggro. One of the big things with Amber Emerald aggro is that not a lot of characters quest for more than 1. So you can just make the entire board quest for 0, and that can be just enough. I'd love to play it at more than 1, and I'm wondering if, truthfully, maybe a second Trust in Me could see play over the Shell Necklace, but we'll see. Speaking of the Shell Necklace, this is a tech that I've been seeing a bit more recently, and I tried, and I'm really enjoying. You have a lot of songs, you have, what is it, 8, 12, 15, 19, I play 20 songs in this deck. So, generally speaking, paying the 1 to draw from a song is really advantageous here. particularly with a card like Strange Things, because oftentimes you're stalling, so just paying more to draw more is great. Strike a good match where late game you're just wanting to draw more cards and you're just wanting to cycle more cards. The Shell Necklace can be tremendous there too. It's another example where playing it at more than a one of feels unnecessary. You draw through your deck so much, you're so efficient at your draw that playing something that is kind of a brick at more than a one of is a little unnecessary. Either way, I think the card's actually really great. It's a set one card that I've literally had sat in the back of my Amber binder for, I'm pretty sure, the entirety of Lorcana. It just sat in there, and I've gone like, well, it's a rare, because back then we used to keep rares because they were, Lorcana was hard to get. It was first chapter, and I kept the Shell Necklace thinking, maybe one day it'll be playable. And somehow, what is it, 3 years later, here we are. I have my one of Shell Necklace in the back of my binder is going to good use again. And then I do want to talk about Potion of Malice. Potion of Malice, I did mention briefly just now, but Potion of Malice puts you can pay one to put one damage on an opposing character. Again, works great with Malicious, Mean, and Scary into Wither a Flower. But another thing that it can do is stall. The secondary effect is you can banish the item, and every damaged character becomes reckless on the opposing side, which is tremendously strong into everything except for Aladdin Reckless decks. Ability to use this to ping the board slowly and slowly and slowly, and then recognize, maybe, like, a lot of people will, especially early on in this deck, will not recognize why you're putting one on everything, because they probably haven't read Potion of Malice before. So that kind of like extension of going, ping this for one, ping this for one. Like, if you have a remaining ink, pinging something for one with Potion of Malice can always be really strong. And then you can pop one of your potions to buy you a turn, because again, we're just stalling here. We're stalling to our Raging Storm. We're stalling to our out resource grind. We need to be getting to that late game to then go, okay, let's board wipe. Now let's grind you out. And Potion of Malice can do a really good job at helping with that. Inscrutable Map is a card that I miss at four copies, and I truthfully think I will find a way to put it back to 4. It is, again, you want to talk about stall tools, making something quest for one less every single turn in the late game is tremendous, because oftentimes your opponent is just playing a character and passing, so you just go, okay, cool, you can't quest with that. Or you got 2 of them in play and something quest for 2, it's like, cool, you can't quest with that. That is just sometimes enough. You will very regularly leave your opponent at 17 or 18 lore, getting really frustrated at you because all you're doing is stopping them from getting there, and just going, Inscrutable Map, don't quest. Potion of Malice, make you reckless. Trust in me, lose your hand. A card that a lot of people are not playing that I really rate is Battering Ram. Battering Ram is another answer into locations, but what it also is a really great tool with cards like Potion of Malice, MMS, and To Wither a Flower, and Piercing Attack. I haven't mentioned Piercing Attack, but it just deals 2, which can be great synergistic options with these cards. Battering Ram is because you're not paying to deal the extra damage, so you're just dealing 1 on top of the Potion of Malice, you're just dealing 1 on top of the Piercing Attack or on top of the MMS. It helps you with To Wither a Flower numbers often, and sometimes just putting more damage on something is just threatening it to say, next turn I'm going to remove this if you can't heal this damage off of it. Obviously, you don't really want to do that into Amber because of Ohana, or if they have a Cheshire Cat on board, but then they can't move the damage off of with Cheshire Cat because you don't play characters. Lastly, I'm mentioning Pizza Planet. I'm on Pizza Planet because Zootopia felt kind of whatever. I know a lot of people have been playing Zootopia Tundra Town. It's a 1-cost inkable location with 4 health. 5 health, maybe? Not sure if it's 4 or 5. It feels rather unimpactful. I think, surprisingly, that extra 2 health from Pizza Planet is very relevant, because there are a lot of characters that can swing into the Zootopia location and not really worry too much. Pizza Planet is phenomenal because there's not a lot of location hate in this format. Other than just big bodies, like, a lot of the decks really struggle. So just Raging Storming followed by 2 or 3 pizza planets and going, answer these. It's exactly what Casa Madrigal does in Ember Sapphire. It's exactly what Counting House can do in Ruby Ember. Locations are very much back, and I think this is a great example of that. It really helps you with that slow tick kind of win with Inkcaster. You can often play 2 pizza planets, proc 2 Inkcasters, and then for the remainder of the game, you're gaining 1 lore from the locations or 2 lore from 2 locations, and just slowly ticking forward. And then as your opponent tries to just scrounge out a win, you can just go inscrutable map, reduce, inscrutable map, reduce, or family scattered, put all 3 characters back in your hand. If you have enough ink, you can even do that followed by Trust in Me to make them discard them. Or they try and play a bunch of characters to go, okay, well, next turn I'm going to kill your locations. You go, okay, Raging Storm. You have a lot of great tools. If I haven't really made it entirely clear, this is the stall deck. All you do is stall and make your opponent cry. So I won't spend a huge amount of time on the alternatives today because, again, this deck is so unsolved that I really think a lot of these options can be explored. I want to talk about Mowgli, Ursula, Timon, and Lenny all together. They are hate cards. They are cards that snipe things out of your opponent's hands. Obviously, Mowgli gives you less agency, but it's inkable. I think Lenny is the real MVP here. Lenny just being able to pick what they do. Plus, you can quest a lot with him. He's very good because you play so many actions, right? So you just quest with him, play an action, restand him, quest with him, and that sometimes that tick of 2 lore is really, really important. Timon, really, really great card too. Doesn't have the upside that Lenny has, and it's uninkable, but you do have the option. I think the Queen is a really, really interesting tool here. I think the Queen is a card that it was a card that I remember playing against an item deck back in Wilds Unknown format. I was in Disneyland, I was sat in Tomorrowland. I was on Duels.inc, just on my phone. And I remember playing into this guy on Lab. I remember just seeing them play Potion of Malice Battering Ram and going, what is going on? Like, what? And then proceeded to get absolutely steamrolled by them setting up 3 queens and just checkmating by bumping up all of the lore gain on the queen for the blue item that does it, and then just going quest for 20 in 1 turn. Yeah, exceptional synergy in this kind of item build. And I think she actually could see some serious consideration in here. It's just the fact that My Adventure Book whiffs on her. My Adventure Book is so consistent right now. Do you want to whiff on any card? I think the potato package is silly, but also possibly pretty good. It is a 1-drop item, which is very easy to play, especially after a Buzz's Arm. You could, on turn 2, play Buzz's Arm and a potato. And then you can shift into Posy, and it can be really good. I think, truthfully, it probably isn't quite there, but it's a really interesting idea. Of course, if we talk about action decks, I really want to talk about Buzz. Buzz saw tremendous usage in as a one-of back in Blue-Green last set, where you could grab back the Bend to My Will, you could grab back the You're Welcome. Now, of course, your targets are going to be more likely to be something like Strange Things, because it's 7 cost or less, meaning sadly you can't grab back a Raging Storm from him. You grab back, but then the synergies of just playing a bunch of obnoxious actions just to make him quest for like 1 billion is also really relevant. Scout Ahead, really, really interesting card, because you're going to be behind on lore, so you could always set up a Scout Ahead turn with your Inkcasters late game and go play 2 Scout Aheads, gain 4 lore, and then double trigger Inkcaster, gain 2 lore. So you can just do a 6 lore swing immediately. You can sack them and sandbag your hand and keep them in your hand as long as possible until late game you just go quadruple Scout Ahead, double Inkcaster trigger. That's 10 lore, and then you've got a Kevin on board or whatever. I've been seeing a bit of chomp usage. Card's interesting, especially with Potion of Malice. I don't know how I feel about it, but I've been seeing people play it, so I want to mention it. Improvise, it's a cantrip. It's a cantrip 1-drop inkable action. It's been good since set 2. The reprint is a really great option for Emerald. I'm very happy that it is seeing play again. I think I think in the version I've built right now, it's not right, but I think there's definitely a space for it. So be it. You're not playing this for the character buff, of course, because you don't really play characters unless you choose that you're going to. Um, you just banish an item for 2, it's inkable. It's like Wipeout in Sapphire, a card that I'm very high on. It's just removal for an item in the mirror, which can be really strong. It's removal for Webby's Diary for the grind game. It's a removal of Snowfort, just in case you want to play Under the Sea. Sudden Chill, again, discard. I think discard is a little slept on right now. Trust in Me has really proven that to me, and Sudden Chill it's the classic discard card. Unfortunately, I don't know how much of a place it really has when Trust in Me does exist. Because the singular discard versus the double discard, yes, the cost difference is massive, and one of which is uninkable. If you're trying to play a deck that's trying to play as many and dump as many actions in the discard as possible, I think Sudden Chill could see play. I think there's possible synergy in the future where it could pop up a bit more. Put that thing back. Really good card. It's just bounce, right? Same argument for Mother Knows Best. I think both of them could see play in a different style of action box, just to stall. Especially if you play a bit more discard, put that thing back, and then Trust in Me to discard their hand. Really, really good. Education or Elimination is interesting. Sometimes you can make your Kevin quest for more, or you just banish a damaged character because you play Potion of Malice. I think this card is a very serious consideration for the deck, because World's Greatest Criminal Mind sometimes doesn't actually do anything. So to just go, if you pay the 1 to Potion of Malice to pop something, and then Education or Elimination to kill it, yes, you're paying 5 ink versus 3, but it can be very, very good. Under the Sea is more self-explanatory. There's a lot of low health, little weenies in the format, and that quest for a lot, and every character on those hate card, those first 4, they all die to Under the Sea. It's a really good example of, Amber Emerald, Circle of Life's been seeing a bit more success because of Under the Sea and Circle of Life and cards like Lenny. Yeah, it's a consideration. I don't think it's right for the Kevin shell, but it could be right for a different shell. Signed Contract is interesting. Signed Contract is kind of similar to the Shell Necklace sort of tech, where if your opponent is singing a lot, you're drawing cards, which, again, Amber Emerald and Amber Steel both spring to mind here. They, especially even the Mirror, but Amber Emerald and Amber Steel really spring to mind because, their entire game plan is singing. Every time they sing in a Cood, you also draw a card. Doesn't feel too bad. Especially if you miss Buzz's Arm, you can play Contract on too. Gyro Evac is an interesting option. I didn't really look into this card much until the past couple days. The making your opponent lose lore is just very reminiscent of like that Pirate's Life Ruby Sapphire lore drain to try and sustain. Ruby Amber is using lore drain to great success with Olaf right now. But Evac is a card that I think could make some serious waves. I think the card is very, very slept on, and I think there's a possibility that it could top an event in an Amber Emerald, or a not an Amber Emerald so much, but maybe an Emerald Amethyst rather. Or even a blue green is a great example, because you quest for so much that you don't mind losing 2 lore yourself. But yeah, just stopping them from gaining lore is really interesting. And then the locations are just alternate location options. Zootopia, I mentioned, it is 5 health. Zootopia is good. I kind of am a little higher on Pizza Planet right now. Game Preserve is gaining 2 lore return, but it's got 4 health, and it's a 3 cost. I'm not so high on this. I think it's either Zootopia or Pizza Planet right now. But one of the things I mentioned was how versatile this shell is, and I really want to show that, because you can just play it in a different color. This is a list of my friends. I'm not going to take credit on this one, but this is just an example of the fact that you can play this. Yes, this is not playing Kevin. However, it's still it's the action box. It's the Incaster Adventure Book, Strange Things, Buzz's Arm style decks. This deck playing Pizza Planet was actually the reason I swapped to Pizza Planet in Kevin box. I think this is a really great example of synergistic tools that just work. And of course, item hate is a problem for this one too. in my personal opinion, I think this version of the deck is less consistent than the Amber Emerald variant, but that does not mean that either of which are better than the other. I think we're so early into this shell that either of them could shine in a different way. I love the expression of these item decks, these action decks. I think it's so interesting to be able to just have a completely different shell, dependent on what as long as you play four buzzers arm emerald, you could play it with ruby, you can play it with sapphire, you can play it with amber, and you just get really interesting alternative options, and I'm very high on that. I think sapphire of course has access to spooky sight, which is tremendous, but then one of the biggest things, you lose raging storm, um and raging storm is a panic button that just works. Sometimes Spooky Sight is not enough. Sometimes Family Scattered is not enough. And Raging Storm oftentimes can just go, let's just kill everything. They both have their strengths. I really want to take the kind of approach here where I say, this deck, while All About Kevin is a fun tagline, it's so much more than that. It's truthfully probably all about the adventure book and Buzz's Arm. It's all about this synergy of obscene items and actions on more well, instead let's word it more succinctly. It's this incredible synergy of non-characters. All of these tools come together to form an action pile, which I believe DeCandio originally populated, and a lot of us were like, "Oh, this is really interesting. I really want to try this," and then proceeded to have so much fun playing this. This deck is so unique; it's ridiculous. I love the insanity, and if you want me to talk and give you a little bit of an understanding more about perhaps just the ideas of this shell and why it works and what you may want to do to make it work, um, please let me know. I would love to give a little bit more insight on this. This one is going to be a little more scatterbrained than others, mainly because there are so many ideas floating around with this deck. There are so many options. This is more so than any other deck in the entire format. This is the least solved list. I mentioned how Amber Emerald was very expressive and different because it can be played in lots of different ways. This is exactly the same. This can be played in different colors, or different inks rather. It can be literally played with a completely different ink pairing, and it still is the same concept, and that's crazy. I think the sky is really the limit for this kind of shell. I think this is the kind of deck that will be forgotten about. It will be neglected and no one will respect it, and then suddenly it will go and just shoot right up to the top of a tournament, and people will realize, oh, items are crazy, let's play item hate again. And it'll be that balancing of, do I play item hate consistently to deal with this, or do I just ignore it for a bit, hope it doesn't bite me? That is the core of what I want to talk about today. This isn't so much a Amber Emerald Kevin controlled deck profile as much as it's a, let's talk about item decks and why they're so strong and why they're so interesting, and why as a rogue option it's something that you may want to try. Again, thank you all for the support. This one again is a very different one again, where it may not be for everyone, but I want to give options for everyone to kind of understand and try why you'd play different cards. But yeah,